And did you know that 1 in 31 children are diagnosed with autism in the United States today, and 1 in 45 adults have autism? And joining us this morning from the ABA Center in Atlanta is the clinical director, Jennifer Lopez, and Bree Phillips, the educational engagement manager. Good morning. Thank y'all so much for coming and bringing awareness to autism this morning. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, jump on in, Brett, because we got a lot to talk about this morning.
Yes, we do. For those who may not know, what is ASD, autism spectrum disorder, and how is it typically diagnosed in kids?
You know, that's a great question. This is something that a lot of families really need to know about. So autism is actually a developmental condition. It affects individuals in how they communicate, how they interact with the world, and how they typically experience the world. Everybody needs to know this is not a disease. It's not something to be ashamed about. It's just that the brain works differently. That's what it really is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, RFK Jr. says that it is caused by maybe the environment, maybe diet, maybe, shots. What is your take on that?
So I always like to refer back to the science, right? What does the science tell us? The science tells us this is not the case, right? The science says, a lot of people like to say, oh, it's the vaccines. No, it's not.
Really?
No, it's not. It's not the vaccines. The science does not back that up. And that's something that we need to really be aware of, right? Mm-hmm. We need to know why is this happening? It's increased awareness. That's what's happening. Increased awareness. Now we know what to look out for. Mm-hmm. When we know what to look out for, then we know what to see.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So what
Gary.
are some of the common misconceptions, that people have about autism?
I think misconceptions typically are they don't know how to interact. We don't know what to see. We don't know. They're maybe just act differently, right? These are things that people see in an individual, but I think that's not the case. ASD is something beautiful. It's something that we need to work on. It works different. The brain works differently, but it's not something to be ashamed about.
Well, I know one thing. I'm seeing more and more people with autism than I've ever seen before in my life. I mean, if you meet a person and they don't seem as quote unquote normal as other people, they say, well, they're artistic or what have you and stuff. And I know I have some family members that go. And I do know one thing. It costs a lot of money to get treatment when you're going through it, honey, because my family member spent a lot of money to go through the treatment and what have you, but it helped out a lot.
Yeah, most definitely. No, I mean, early intervention is key. If you catch it early on, if you're able to recognize the signs, because you can recognize the signs as early as 6 months. Yeah. Right? If you catch those early signs and you get your child into the therapies that they need, ABA specifically, then you're going to not have as much cost towards you. You're going to be able to remediate those signs early, and then we can get them into our typical gen ed population is always our goal, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think the best thing to do is watch out for those warning signs and make sure that you get in early.
And to Jennifer's point, the amount of awareness and the amount of diagnosis now has increased. So that's why you're seeing so many people or so many children with autism now. They're getting tested earlier, and the testing is more efficient. Mm-hmm. And so this influx of people with autism is apparent now.
Now, Bree, as a parent of a child with autism, what prompted you, to go and, get your daughter tested, and how old was she?
Yeah, so my daughter was 3 years old when we got her tested. We went right down to Marcus Autism in Atlanta, and she experienced behaviors in hand flapping and toe walking, and she had a slight speech delay. And so as a parent, I was kind of worried because I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and seeing her grow up around other children, she just was a little bit abnormal there. So we got her tested, and then we had a title on it. We had a name on it, right? So then I jumped into figuring out how to basically care for my child that's different from other children and what services that I can provide to her at that point.
Okay, well, once your daughter was formally diagnosed, how did you feel, and then what did you do?
Right. So now we put a title on it. Now we had a name on it, right? Mm-hmm. So it took a toll because I already thought something was wrong with my baby at first. Mm-hmm. So now I was like, okay, well, what do I do? How do I raise her in a quote unquote normal environment that we live in, but she sees the world a little differently, or she may react to things a little differently? So I started with obtaining early intervention for her. So we went through what we call a EIP process, and then her EIP turned into an IEP. So that's an individualized educational plan. So that's what she has now. So she has accommodations in school. She'll have small group classrooms. She has preferential seating. She gets extended time on test. And then she's also getting occupational therapy and speech therapy to help her kind of just be normal in what we call our normal environment.
So we know, the journey of a parent with a child who's on the spectrum can be really tricky, at least at times. So how would you say your day-to-day life has changed since this diagnosis?
That's a great question. So every day is a journey, and I kind of turn my why, Lord, why is this happening to me, into why not me? You gave me something extra special to care for, so let me figure out what I need to do and how I need to handle her. So our day-to-day journey is different. She's more so, the autism spectrum is wide, right? So my daughter would kind of fall into what we call high functioning, right? So if you see her, she doesn't necessarily look autistic. But if there's a loud noise, or if she's in a environment that she's overstimulated, then she can have some sort of reaction. So day to day looks different. It just depends on where we are in the moment, how she's feeling, what she wants to do, essentially, because she's still a kid at the end of the day. So it changes and it varies every day.
Well, we're going to continue our conversation on autism and what you need to know with Jennifer Lopez and Bree Phillips from the ABA Center in Atlanta. We'll be talking more on the other side, more about autism coming up next. Ricky Smiley Morning Show. Really, why is this topic so touching for you?
Yeah, because I have a family member, and I know a friend who has a grandchild, that's experiencing autism. And I've just always been, empathetic, toward kids, like that. It's just a sad situation, though. But I'm glad we're talking about it. And I'm able to get this out. So, and I'm learning more about it too as well. So that's a good thing.
Is it anything else you want to? I mean, because if it's having an effect on you like that, ask whatever you like.
Oh yeah, well we've talked about it and stuff. I've asked, and my answers, my questions were definitely answered. But I do have a question about for families who have members who's on the spectrum. I mean, what are the ways that they can offer support or intervention, to the
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it's really important to look out for those early signs, right? Because a lot of times you don't know what you don't know, right? Yeah. So children, you can start seeing this in children as early as 6 months, right? And typically it's like if they're not speaking, they have limited speech, right? Maybe like 18 to 24 months and there's still no speech. They're avoiding eye contact. Maybe they're lining toys up in a certain way. They're struggling with transitions. They're struggling with like their daily routines. They're not responding to their name when you call them. They're not looking at you, right? These are all early signs that people need to be aware of so that they can help their children as early on. And in regards to like the interventions, I think it's really important to note that applied behavior analysis, ABA, is the leading intervention for individuals with autism. That's the way that we can help build their skills to help remediate those symptoms. At ABA centers, we focus on that early intervention. We help kids as early as possible. We have a zero wait list, which is so important because you want to get help as soon as possible.
Yeah. I just want to know, are there any new developments in research that that you could be, that we all could be excited about?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So ABA, we're always doing research. That is the foundation of our science. Behavior science is constantly looking out for new ways and new forms of treatment. We are now in the process of developing better treatments for individuals that have highly aggressive behaviors, right? So some of these kids are not being treated in centers or in schools because they are just too aggressive or they're just too hard to handle. So now we're working to see what's the best intervention that we can apply for these individuals. And we have found an intervention that is working amazingly. And I'm so proud to say that. That's called skills-based treatment. And now we can help treat them without getting those high excessive behaviors, which is so important.
That is important. And that's great. Bree, let me ask you, what's one thing you wish that people understood about those with autism, and how can the public better support and interact with people on the spectrum?
Yeah, I would say to give more grace and a little bit more patience, right? Yes. We're trying to kind of not necessarily integrate them into our world, but just things that are not catered to them. Just have a little bit more grace and a little more patience. So if you see somebody in the grocery store and you're in line and they're taking a little bit longer, you don't know what those person's deficits are.
Right.
So just to have some patience with them, or if they need a little assistance, or maybe you see a mom with a child who's kind of lashing out. Don't necessarily think that that's a bad child, right? They could be experiencing some sensitivity to noise, or the transitional process for maybe even getting out of the car may be too much for them. So I would say patience and grace for sure.
Well, I'm just, we got to, because we got like 15 seconds. Jennifer and Bree, thank y'all so much for joining us this morning. Let everybody know how they can follow your journey and get more tips on autism.
Thank you so much for having us. So we are at ABA Centers. Please reach out and call us at 844-405-4222 if you're needing services. We are located nationwide currently. So please, and we're in 8 different states. So please reach out to ABA Centers.
All right, y'all give it up for Bree Phillips and Jennifer Lopez from the ABA Center in Atlanta. Thank y'all so much, y'all. More Ricky Smiley Morning Show coming up.
The Ricky Smiley Morning Show, baby.